The Mexican-American War is an often forgotten yet significant conflict in North America which went on to shape the politics and history of the United States for the next 100 years. The war started in 1846 and ended in 1848 and resulted in a massive victory for the USA against a vastly unprepared Mexico. The United States gained more than 500,000 square miles in Mexican territory, including California, which became significant during the Gold Rush. This then had a direct effect in causing the American Civil War nearly 20 years later, as it opened a debate between the North and the South as to what to do with all the newly acquired land. The war also marked the first time the United States fought an armed conflict on foreign soil, but did you know that the conflict saw the first successful amphibious landing in the United States history? Or that the war can boast one of the highest casualty rates of any American war? Or most importantly, did you know that the war saw an unlikely group of soldiers desert the USA and switch sides to fight for Mexico? This short 7-minute in history documentary will cover all and more, and if you like this video, please subscribe and let me know in the comments if there are any other topics you would like to see me cover. From the late 18th century onwards, North America saw monumental changes as the European powers lost control of their colonies during a string of independence movements. The 13 colonies declared independence from the British in 1776, forming the United States of America. Canada gained increasing autonomy from Europe, and the First Mexican Empire declared independence in 1810. This created a tense situation in North America, as 3 new countries were formed, with undefined borders and a vast array of resources to fight for. Mexico fought a war of independence for 10 years before finally gaining self-determination. The war left the country weak, with the silver mines being destroyed in the conflict. Mexico successfully resisted several attempts by the Spanish to recolonize and even fought off the French in the Pastry War of 1838. After facing 25 years of near constant conflict, Mexico was left unprepared for a major war with their neighbours. The situation in the United States couldn't be more different. After gaining independence, they went on a mission of expansionism under the mantra of Manifest Destiny, which was the belief that the country was destined by God to expand its dominion and spread democracy and capitalism. Old habits die hard. The United States had the advantage of economic prosperity due to its vast land and fertile soil, which the USA used to grow cotton. This allowed the United States to purchase land such as Louisiana from the French, giving them an undefined border with Mexico. But as cotton production exhausted the soil in the South, new land needed to be acquired, and the only place America had to look was further south. Texas probably had the largest role to play in the Mexican-American War. Originally belonging to Mexico, a flood of new settlers from the United States into Texas meant the Hispanic population became outnumbered. Eventually, the Texan population rebelled against the Mexican government, which led to the Texas Revolution in 1835, where the Texan forces defeated the Mexican troops, paving the way for the Republic of Texas. It wasn't long before Texas sought to be annexed by the United States. However, there was a strong opposition in the US until James K. Polk was elected as the 11th President of the United States in 1844, finally admitting Texas to statehood in 1845. This move broke diplomatic relations between Mexico and the United States, as they now became embroiled in disputes about where the border between Mexico and Texas fell, with Mexico claiming the border was at the Nueces River and the United States declaring the border stretched all the way to the Rio Grande. A year before the war began, President Polk was determined to see through his expansionist agenda in the South. The President sent his trusted general and future President Zachary Taylor to Texas. At the same time, he sent John Slidell on a secret mission to Mexico City with an offer for the Mexican government to purchase territory that would expand the Texan border to the Rio Grande, as well as Mexico's other territories of California and New Mexico for the sum of $25 million. The expansionists in the United States had their eye on California for a while, as it would allow them to gain a port on the Pacific and deter any British interests in the area. However, the Mexican people and the army saw the ceding of land to the Americans as something that would tarnish the national honour, and despite the Mexican President De Hera initially wanting to receive Slidell and look for a diplomatic solution to the Texan border dispute, the media and the army generals accused De Hera of treason and deposed him in favour of a more nationalistic government led by a military general. As a result of the negotiations failing, the President ordered Taylor to move his forces south and occupy the Rio Grande, which sent the Mexican army into a frenzy as they prepared for war. In April, 2,000 Mexican cavalrymen attacked a 70-man United States patrol group, resulting in 11 soldiers being killed and the rest captured, marking the first armed conflict between the nations. Mexico then went forward with a number of other skirmishes, first laying siege on Fort Texas for over 160 hours before American soldiers led by Taylor arrived, forcing Mexico back into a retreat. News of the attack reached Polk, who considered their actions to constitute a casus belli, and went to Congress to declare war on Mexico. The Democrats voted for war in strong support, but it saw considerable opposition from the Whigs, including a young congressman named Abraham Lincoln. Congress ultimately approved the bill and war was declared. One of the frontiers was fought in California after the Mexican government decreed that all foreign-born citizens must leave the territory. American forces were already mobilized in the region and attacked, which saw a swift and decisive victory for the United States. By January in 1847, the United States had took Los Angeles with no resistance at all and forced American troops in the region to surrender. Zachary Taylor's army fought several battles in the Rio Grande, but one of the most interesting campaigns of the war has to be the Battle of the Buena Vista, which happened in February 1847. After having heard of Taylor's weakened forces, Santa Anna marched Mexico's whole army north to meet the American forces. This was one of the largest battles of the war and saw Taylor's 4,600 troops face Mexican General Santa Anna's 20,000. However, due to the long march, Santa Anna suffered several desertions on the way, reducing his forces by 5,000. Santa Anna then attacked in the morning and managed to flank, distract, and force the American army to expose themselves, leading to a long and bloody battle that lasted into the night. Initial reports from the battle reported a Mexican victory, which it may very well have been. However, Santa Anna, upon hearing word of rebellion in Mexico City, led a retreat to secure the city. Santa Anna received heavy criticism for this move, as it is widely considered that if he had kept attacking, the United States Army would have been defeated, turning the tide of the war. After the withdrawal, General Taylor took control of northeastern Mexico. From there, a second force was sent to complete the first successful amphibious landing in United States history, as General Winfield Scott landed at Veracruz, placing the city under siege. A large portion of the American forces fell ill with yellow fever, which led to the United States suffering one of the highest casualty rates of any conflict it has took part in. After taking the city, General Scott then moved on to take the city of Puebla, the second largest city of Mexico. The citizens of Puebla disliked the Mexican leader Santa Anna so much they actually surrendered to the American forces with little resistance, allowing Scott to move forward and take Mexico City. There was one last stumbling block on the way to take the capital, Chapultepec Castle. This castle was heavily fortified, but after a series of artillery bombardments by the US forces, they stormed the citadel. The battle saw a group of Mexican teenage cadets defend their positions to the death, earning them legendary status. The next day, General Taylor met with the other forces and took Mexico City, effectively ending the war. From that point, with Mexico soundly defeated, the two sides entered negotiations. The treaty was signed, which gave the United States full and undisputed control of Texas and ceded the United States the territories of California, Nevada, Utah, New Mexico, Arizona, and Colorado. In return, Mexico received $15 million, or $449 million in today's money, which was less than half of what the United States originally offered Mexico before the fighting began. After the treaties were signed and ratified, the Mexican-American War officially ended on the 2nd of February 1848. The war had a massive impact on the United States domestically, as it saw the first anti-war movement, with a young Abraham Lincoln famously voting against going to war. There were also fears from the northern anti-slavery movements that adding slave-owning territories to the south would cause conflict over the country's direction, which they were right about. It can be argued that the Mexican-American War led directly to the American Civil War some 20 years later. And there you have it, your 7-minute in history documentary on the Mexican-American War. But did you know about the unlikely group of soldiers that deserted the United States Army? The St. Patrick's Battalion was mostly made up of Irish Catholics who resented the prejudice they received from the Protestants in the United States Army. Under the leadership of John Raleigh, they defected and became Santa Anna's artillery force, with their battalion name changed to San Patricios, and although they were later captured and court-martialed for desertion by the United States, they are remembered as heroes in Mexico, where they are still honoured every St. Patrick's Day. If you enjoyed my video, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel. We'll be making more content like this. I really appreciate you watching and look forward to seeing you next time.